Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Monday, February 8th, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing the approval of Verquvo for the treatment of heart failure and approval of Tepmetko, a new treatment for metastatic non-small cell lung cancer with MET alterations. We'll also be discussing the approval of a new combination therapy for renal cell carcinoma. And as always, feel free to skip around. I'm going to include times in the show notes so you can get the drugs that interest you. First up though, the FDA approved Verquvo, which goes by brand name Verquvo, a soluble granulate cyclase stimulator to reduce the risk of cardiovascular death and heart failure hospitalization following a hospitalization for heart failure or need for outpatient intravenous diuretics in adult patients with symptomatic chronic heart failure and ejection fraction less than 45%. The approval of Verquvo by the FDA is the first treatment for chronic heart failure approved specifically for patients with this indication. Verquvo will be available in 2.5, 5, and 10 milligram tablets and was jointly developed by Bayer and Merck. Heart failure with reduced ejection fraction used to be known as systolic heart failure and is categorized by the compromised ability of the heart to pump blood sufficiently during its contraction phase. In the US, approximately 6 million adults 20 years of age and older have heart failure, and approximately 50% of heart failure patients have reduced ejection fraction. Approximately half of patients with worsening chronic heart failure with reduced ejection fraction are re-hospitalized within 30 days of a worsening event, and an estimated 1 in 5 patients with worsening chronic heart failure will die within 2 years. Verquvo is a stimulator of soluble granulate cyclase, an important enzyme in the nitric oxide signaling pathway. When nitric oxide binds to soluble granulate cyclase, the enzyme catalyzes the synthesis of intracellular cyclic guanosine monophosphate, a second messenger that plays a role in the regulation of vascular tone, cardiac contractility, and cardiac remodeling. Heart failure is associated with impaired synthesis of nitric oxide and decreased activity of cyclic guanosine monophosphate, which may contribute to myocardial and vascular dysfunction. By directly stimulating SGC independently of and synergistically with nitric oxide, Verquvo augments levels of intracellular cGMP, leading to smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilation. The approval of Verquvo was based on data from Victoria, a randomized placebo-controlled double-blind trial comparing Verquvo to placebo in 5,050 adult patients with symptomatic chronic heart failure and left ventricular ejection fraction less than 45%, following a worsening heart failure event. A worsening heart failure event was defined as heart failure hospitalization within 6 months or less prior to randomization or use of outpatient IV diuretics for heart failure within 3 months or less prior to randomization. In Victoria, Verquvo was superior to placebo in reducing the risk of cardiovascular death or heart failure hospitalization based on a time-to-event analysis. In the Victoria trial, Verquvo demonstrated an adverse event profile similar to placebo. The adverse drug reactions occurring more commonly in Verquvo than placebo were hypotension and anemia. The FDA also approved a new combination treatment for renal cell carcinoma, the combination of cabozantinib, which goes by brand name Cabometyx, with nivolumab, which goes by brand name Opdivo, for patients with advanced renal cell carcinoma as a first-line treatment. Renal cell carcinoma is the most common form of kidney cancer, which is among the 10 most frequently diagnosed cancers in the U.S. annually. Out of all renal cell carcinomas, clear cell renal cell carcinoma is the most common type of kidney cancer in adults. If detected in its early stages, the 5-year survival rate for renal cell carcinoma is high. For patients with advanced or late-stage metastatic renal cell carcinoma, however, the 5-year survival rate is only 13%. Approximately 32,000 patients in the US and 71,000 worldwide will require systemic treatment for advanced kidney cancer in 2021. About 70% of renal cell carcinoma cases are known as clear cell carcinomas based on histology. The majority of clear cell carcinomas have below normal levels of a protein called von Hippel-Lindau, which leads to higher levels of MET, AXL, and VEGF. These proteins promote tumor growth, invasiveness, and metastases. MET and AXL may provide escape pathways that drive resistance to VEGF receptor inhibitors. Cabometyx is a small molecule inhibitor of the tyrosine kinases MET, VEGF, AXL, and RET. Tyrosine kinases are enzymes responsible for the activation of many proteins in various signaling cascades. Opdivo, on the other hand, works in the body's T-cell response. T-cells protect the body from various pathogens and typically from cancer cells by killing them. Many cancer cells evolve protective proteins from T-cells, which can actually inhibit T-cells from functioning properly, and Opdivo blocks those proteins, letting the T-cells do their work. In the case with Opdivo, it binds to the PD-1 receptor on T-cells, blocking the PD-1 pathway. The approval is based on results from Checkmate-9er, a Phase 3 trial evaluating the combination of Cabometyx and Opdivo compared with sunitinib in previously untreated advanced or metastatic renal cell carcinoma. The FDA reviewed the application for Cabometyx and Opdivo under the Real-Time Oncology Review Pilot Program and Fast Track designation. This program allows an applicant to pre-submit components of the application to allow the FDA to review clinical trial data before the complete filing is submitted, and aims to explore a more efficient review process to ensure safe and effective treatments are available to patients sooner. In Checkmate-9er, the combination regimen significantly improved overall survival compared with sunitinib. Median overall survival has not yet been reached in either treatment arm. Median progression-free survival was doubled at 16.6 months with Cabometyx in combination with Opdivo, compared with 8.3 months for sunitinib. Objective response rate was also doubled, 56% with Cabometyx in combination with Opdivo, and 27% with sunitinib. The combination was generally well tolerated and reflected the known safety profiles of the tyrosine kinase inhibitor and immunotherapy components in previously untreated advanced renal cell carcinoma. The most common adverse reactions were diarrhea, fatigue, hepatotoxicity, palmar-plantar erythrodysesthesia, stomatitis, rash, hypertension, hypothyroidism, musculoskeletal pain, cough, and respiratory infection. And finally this week, the FDA granted accelerated approval to tepotinib, which goes by brand name Tepmetko, for adult patients with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer who have a confirmed MET exon 14 skipping alteration. MET exon 14 skipping mutations occur in approximately 3 to 4% of patients with non-small cell lung cancer, typically in the absence of other driver mutations, and are associated with a poor prognosis. Efficacy was demonstrated in the VISION trial, a multi-center, non-randomized, open-label, multi-cohort study enrolling 152 patients with advanced or metastatic non-small cell lung cancer with MET exon 14 skipping alterations. Patients received Tepmetko 450 mg orally once daily until disease progression or unacceptable toxicity. The main efficacy outcome measures were overall response rate determined by a blinded independent review committee using RECIST 1.1 and response duration. Among the 69 treatment-naive patients, the overall response rate was 43%, with a median response duration of 10.8 months. Among the 83 previously treated patients, the overall response rate was 43%, with a median response duration of 11.1 months. The most common adverse reactions were edema, fatigue, nausea, diarrhea, musculoskeletal pain, and dyspnea. Tepmetko can also cause interstitial lung disease, hepatotoxicity, and embryo-fetal toxicity. The recommended dose is 450 mg once daily with food. This indication received accelerated approval based on overall response rate and response duration. Continued approval for this indication may be contingent upon verification and description of clinical benefit in confirmatory trials. This review also used the real-time oncology review, which streamlined data submission prior to the filing of the entire clinical application. The review also used the Oncology Center of Excellence Assessment Aid and the Product Quality Assessment Aid, voluntary submissions from the applicant to facilitate the FDA's assessment. This review was conducted under Project Orbis, an initiative of the FDA Oncology Center of Excellence. Project Orbis provides a framework for concurrent submission and review of oncology drugs among international partners. For this application, a modified Project Orbis was undertaken because of the timing of submission to other regulatory agencies. FDA collaborated with Health Canada, Therapeutic Goods Administration of Australia, and Swissmedic on this review. And that's all I have for right now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.